first therapy appointment with a new eating disorder specialist. Since I'm doing this work training, if you've seen my past videos, there's this big training I'm going to be leading coming up that I really don't want to do because I'm worried it's going to trigger my eating disorder, and I have been binge purge free for 66 days right now, which is really exciting, but I'm worried that it's going to trigger it. And I've been aware that my eating disorder has been a coping mechanism all of my life. I can see it really clearly looking back now, that whenever I get stressed or overwhelmed or tired, whatever that stressor is, I use my eating disorder to give me some form of relief. So normally the eating disorder helps me cope by binging and purging. If I'm binging and purging, I'm not thinking of that stressful thing. Right? I had that relief in the overeating and the relief of throwing up, which isn't really relief, but through practice it became relief. And then same with recovery. When I was trying to not engage in my eating disorder, I'd have this stressor, and then I'd binge and purge, and then I would just obsess about how this isn't what I want to be doing. I want to be recovering, and that obsessing about that stuff stopped me from thinking about whatever the other stressors are in my life. So the way my eating disorder is still helping me cope, and I made a video about this a few days ago, is instead of thinking about the training, which is stressing me out, I start obsessing about over my weight. And I spent 3 days last week just consumed with how I've gotten bigger. And I have, but that's not the real issue. The issue is I was obsessing about my weight, and I realized I haven't thought about this training in 3 days. And that's not necessarily a good thing. My eating disorder thinks it's helping me by having me not think about the training and obsessing about my weight, but that isn't helpful, right? Because I'm obsessing about this problem that's not even really a problem, and I'm not focusing on my attention what I should be. So that's a really big aha. So now when I realize that I'm obsessing about my weight, I'm telling myself that this is your eating disorder trying to help you cope with not feeling the stress, but you need to confront this stress and see if there's something you can do to manage the stress, like maybe prepare more, or recognize that this is a stress that's not going away, and thinking about the eating disorder isn't helping either, or thinking about the weight gain isn't helping either. I'm going to pull over a second to finish this video. Isn't helping either. And so I asked my therapist if she had a suggestion on what I could do when the weight gain thoughts come up. And she says, for now, since this is something I need to be dealing with now, that in the long term I'll come up with other coping mechanisms or coping skills, but I should do 2 things. And the first thing is distract myself immediately and distract myself with my senses. So holding a cold ice cube, or I said maybe playing catch, something that uses your senses that you really have to think about, because you can't sense and think about something else at the same time. And I told her I probably could still think about being fat and playing catch at the same time. And she said, well, then you have to do something that will make you not be able to think about it. And she suggested having my husband give me math problems that I need to solve in my head. And I was like, that'd be really good, because I'm not very good at math. Like, it would take all of my mental faculties to be able to figure out a math problem. And I probably couldn't do that, or I couldn't do that and think about my weight. And so I think the math I'm going to try to work on is figuring out how to tip well, like what's 20% of all these different numbers, because that's a skill I'd like to have. So win-win. And then she said after that I need to take myself and do an activity. So I immediately distract myself, and then I engage in a different kind of activity, like taking the kids on a walk or watching a movie or something, so I'm continuing to not focus on the weight gain. So that was really helpful for me. Those first therapy sessions are so intense. And I actually know this woman, I was going to teach her eating disorder clients yoga for eating disorders 8 years ago after the first time I went out of treatment. So it was really humbling to go to her and tell her, like, this has come up again in my life, and being really honest, and it was just so much help. I'm excited to share more things I learned from working with her. And one thing she told me too is to acknowledge how far I've come, because I still think I'm this eating disorder fuck up, and I identify myself as the eating disorder when I'm not the eating disorder, and not binging and purging for 66 days, and eating without restrictions, and being able to connect with my kids and laugh at my husband's jokes. And those are really big wins. So, okay, thanks for watching. I hope this video wasn't too weird with me driving. I just really wanted to be able to make this before I get home. Okay, bye.